Thanks so much for tuning in to day 4 of our 4th anniversary celebration as we take a closer look at one of the rising stars of the Japanese whiskey world that is producing releases so extraordinary you can taste the passion in each sip. We're talking about the Chichibu Distillery. The story of the Chichibu Distillery is a romantic and hopeful one, to say the least, with all the ups and downs and sadness and happiness that comes with any tale worth telling. It begins a long time ago. Owned and run by the Akudo family, the Hanyu Distillery was founded during the 17th century, producing sake from rice sourced from the surrounding fields. In 1946, with a license to produce alcohol, the Hanyu Distillery started making many kinds of products. However, in 1980, with 2 new pot stills, the distillery moved towards producing Scotch-style whiskey under the supervision of a man named Asuji Akudo. Sadly, in an increasingly competitive market, the distillery wasn't able to survive, and the Hanyu Distillery shut down only a decade or so after starting to produce whiskey. In 2000, production was completely halted, and the equipment was dismantled by the site's new owners in 2004. These events could have easily brought the story to a close if not for the passion of one man. Asuji's grandson, Ichiro Okudo, worked as brand manager for Suntory as a young man before joining the company as sales manager. He was the company's president when Hanyu fell and was the one who salvaged the remaining Hanyu stock, which includes some of the rarest whiskey in Japan today. This brings us to the rising part of the story, where the Akudo descendant took all of his family's history and effort onto his shoulders and refused to give up. Ichiro started a company named Venture Whiskey in order to market the remaining Hanyu stock. He turned Hanyu whiskey into a global brand encompassing luxury, rarity, and quality. He started the renowned Ichiro's Malt series amongst other rare releases. Every step he took, however, had a final destination, a final goal to establish a new distillery. This distillery was named Chichibu and became operational in 2008. Making it the first new distillery in Japan since 1973. Ichiro Okudo and his new distillery were, and still are, the big news in the Japanese whiskey world, and Hanyu fans worldwide are not disappointed, as the young distillery is making some amazing progress as they move forward. So, what does Chichibu look like today? Just outside the town of Chichibu, Japanese Mizunara trees grow in front of the distillery as the small Chichibu team of 9 employees go about their daily tasks. As a young distillery, Chichibu specializes in short maturation, some releases being aged as little as 3 years. The intense climate in the area is said to have a huge impact on aging, with extremely warm, humid summers and freezing cold winters. For this reason, Chichibu whiskeys are rather fruity and well-balanced, despite the short maturation periods. Knowledge is at the forefront of this little distillery, as members of the team travel to the UK each year to study floor malting and other whiskey-making practices. The warehouses are full of used bourbon casks, Mizunara casks, and other unique barrels, as the distillery continues to experiment and find its own distinctive whiskey-producing path. Local Saitama barley is used to produce some of the Chichibu whiskey. However, due to limited supply, the distillery also uses barley sourced from the UK. Chichibu draws much from the history of Scotch making, but through experimentation, local ingredients and climate, and Japanese expertise, the distillery has quickly become an established brand, and expectations for Chichibu whiskey are only growing. Chichibu and Ichiro Okudo don't seem to be stopping anytime soon, so stay tuned for further breakthroughs and awards as they take the Japanese whiskey industry to new heights. In order to honor Chichibu Distillery, let's take a look at 5 of our favorite releases. At number 1 is Chichibu Matsuri 2017. This Chichibu whiskey was made for the 2017 Chichibu Festival that is held annually in Japan. The festival has become one of the industry's most iconic events, featuring Ichiro Okudo himself, along with a multitude of other whiskey nobility. The event is capped off with a lottery for the bottles of a special festival-only release. This particular expression was extraordinary and received a nod by critics the world over, resulting in the bottle being crowned the world's best single cask single malt at the 2017 World Whisky Awards. It's a 6-year-old single cask single malt that was matured in a Fino cherry hogshead cask. Intense, deep, and voted one of the best single malts in the world, this is a whiskey to put on your bucket list. At number 2 is the Chiro's Malt Chichibu 2019 cask number 5821. The limited edition Chiro's Malt Chichibu 2019 is a fabulous single cask expression from one of the best casks of Chichibu liquid. Carefully created in 2009, it was then matured for around 9 years, including a period where it was finished in a rum cask before being bottled in 2018. As with all Chichibu single cask whiskeys, this one has grown hugely popular, and with only 622 bottles produced, you best act fast if you want to get your hands on one. The whiskey was so incredible that it was the category winner for Best Single Cask Single Malt at the 2019 World Whisky Awards. And at number 3 is the Chiro's Malt Mizunara Wood Reserve, or MWR for short. This release is a vatting of different unnamed single malts from multiple distilleries which have all been aged in Japanese Mizunara oak. There has even been some indication that it may possibly include some Hanyu liquid, although this has never been officially confirmed. Mizunara has a highly distinctive aroma. The Japanese say that it smells of temples, specifically the incense which can be smelled in Zen temples, which, while totally accurate, that's not much help if you haven't actually been to one. It's a heavy, exotic aroma of allspice, sandalwood, and redwood. In fact, if you think of the perfumed aspects of rye, but more intense, then you're in the right ballpark. The palate is soft and slow to start, then picks up mouth-watering acidity with a feeling that parallels that of a rye expression. Tastes of green plum and peach, balanced with a spiciness on the end. Once encountered, you won't forget this one. And at number 4 is a Chiro's Malt and Grain, perhaps the most common entry point in the world of a Chiro, given the affordable price point. This is a lovely blended whiskey from Japan, a gem that is made from both malt and grains as the name suggests. But the real surprise is that this is a blend of whiskeys from 8 distilleries in 5 different countries: Canada, Ireland, Scotland, the US, and Japan, the latter from a Chiro's own malt and grain whiskeys. It's a marriage of the finest whiskeys from a Chiro's very own young malt and grain whiskey stock, combined with top whiskeys from the countries which founder Ichiro Okudo refers to as the Big Five. These international whiskeys tend to mature more quickly than the whiskeys aging in the cool climate of mountainous Japan, which gives this blend incredible character. This whiskey is clean on the nose with notes of fruit, vanilla, and oak. And finally, rounding up our lineup at number 5 is the Chiro's Malt Double Distilleries, a blend of whiskey from the Chichibu Distillery and the now closed Hanyu Distillery. The Chiro's Double Distilleries contains sherry matured whiskey from Hanyu and new make whiskey from Chichibu, all matured in a Japanese Mizunara oak cask. We've even heard mumblings that some old Hanyu punch-in casks may have been used in the vattings. While the exact proportion is unknown, the end result is a nice, easy drinking dram with no real flaws. Thanks for tuning in to this brief introduction to Chichibu. We hope you enjoyed it and look forward to seeing you back tomorrow for the next day of our anniversary celebration.